speaks for itself. Anybody been in the gym, they say, on top of our name, this fight didn't come just because they handpicked me or whatever the case may be. I worked my way up to this.
I'm the one. Cool. I'm ski mask up. Them niggas
Let's go.
What's up, fight fans? Welcome to my channel. This is Johnny, and in today's video we're going to be taking a closer look at the statistics that nobody talks about when mentioning the upcoming fight at 135 pounds between Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach. Guys, before we continue, I want to say thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you to everybody who's been with me since day one. And if you haven't already, could you please hit subscribe as well as the notification buttons? What that'll allow me to do is every time I create something that's new, it'll pop up in your feed and you'll be the first to be notified. Thank you. I also want to mention, if you're a boxing head like myself and you enjoy staying up to date on the day-to-day goings-on of the sport of boxing, be sure to check out my shorts section. What I do there is I post 4 to 5 times a day to keep you up to date on our favorite sport. All right, guys, at the beginning of March, we're going to see the return of Gervonta Davis. He's taking on Lamont Roach. This fight will be for Gervonta's 135-pound WBA strap. Lamont Roach is currently the 130-pound WBA champion. So in this video, we're going to be breaking down both fighters. Remember, this is not a prediction video, but stay tuned to the end because I want your prediction. What we'll also be covering is their current resume, what they've been up to over their last few fights. We're going to talk about the current Las Vegas odds and give you some facts on both fighters. Guys, we last saw Lamont Roach against Fergal McCrory. He won that fight via 8th round knockout, 130-pound WBA title. Lamont Roach is a guy, if you're unaware of him, he had an extensive amateur background. He was a national champion. He turned pro in 2014. So when I posted initially that this fight was going down and I said that Tank Davis was bringing up a lighter fighter, a lot of people were commenting, and I wanted to address this issue. Lamont Roach has never fought a fight more than 4 rounds at 135 pounds. So there's this weird narrative that's going around that's wrong, that he's a 135-pounder fighting at 130. He's not. He's fought his entire career at 130, but his first few fights, I think he had 3 or 4 4-rounders where he was around 135. But this is not the case of a guy who's flip-flopping, went to 35, fought a big portion of his career, won titles there, went back to 30. That's not what this is. Lamont Roach is a 130-pounder. Also, I want to mention, just because I challenge Gervonta Davis's resume or bring up points of contention to strictly Gervonta Davis's fans doesn't mean I'm a hater. Remember, guys, my job here is to report about boxing. I try to do my best to stay non-divisive and non-opinionated, but I will give you my opinions on certain things if I feel it's important that the fight fans know. I am not a channel for fanboying. I am not doing these videos to pile on one fighter or pat the back of a certain fighter. This is strictly to educate the boxing fandom on what's going on in the sport because I'm a fan of boxing, and that's that. Gervonta Davis, his last 2 fights, he fought Frank Martin, who's a plus 800 underdog, and then he's fighting Lamont Roach, who's a plus 1,000 underdog. So recently online, I posed the question, when is Gervonta Davis going to fight in closer fights, as well as has he ever had a 50-50 fight? But for now, I want to talk about and explain to people who might not understand who Lamont Roach is. The diehards will know who Lamont Roach is due to his amateur background and him being a champion at 130, but the boxing casuals might not know who he is. So let's do that real quick. Guys, Roach is 25-1. He does have 1 draw. He also has 10 knockouts. He carries into the ring a 40% knockout to win ratio and is currently ranked 16th in the world at 130. Remember, this fight's at 135. He has a career 172 pro rounds. The American is 29 years old, standing at 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. He's also an orthodox style fighter. We last saw him against McCrory, 16-0 knockout in the 8th. Hector Garcia, 16-1 split decision in the 12th. Rodriguez, 20-1 UD in the 12th. Alvarado, 32-10 UD in the 10th. Rosas, 22-4 knockout in the 2nd. Something about Lamont Roach that can't be spoken about enough is his ring IQ, his athleticism, and his preparation. This is not a guy who's fighting Tank Davis and thinking that he's going to lose. I want to mention that, and you guys need to understand that. Lamont Roach isn't coming in for a paycheck even though he's going to get paid. He's not coming in just to see his name in the lights even though they're going to be plastered all around the city. He's coming in to win. He thinks he's going to beat Gervonta Davis, and time will tell. That's one thing going for Lamont Roach. I know that all you guys out there who are huge Lamont Roach fans, that's something to lean on because that's important. We've seen big fights in the past where we can admit to each other that fighter A or fighter B doesn't really think he's gonna win. He's just going for a payday, or he's going to get knocked out. This isn't the case. So Lamont Roach fans can sleep well at night thinking that he's going to be prepared, which will be a fact, that he's going to be competitive early on, which will be a fact, and that he also thinks he's gonna win. So that in itself does make this fight exciting. Also, I should mention when I said his ring IQ, something that you guys might not know. This guy went to school for mechanical engineering. I only reference that because it shows you how astute he is and how visceral he is. He is a full-time thinker as well as a full-time prize fighter. Those facts together, like I said, are on his side going into this fight, and it will be interesting to see how he lays out that game plan. I think from his perspective, if I were his coach, you definitely want to have a feeling out process with Tank. You don't want to attack fire with fire because you know Tank is going to sit back and counter. So that being said, Roach will have the opportunity to steal some rounds early, and if he feels that he tastes the power early and that he can't get hurt, then that'll be up to him to make the decision regarding space and distance. But I feel the first few rounds, from Roach's perspective, he should do a feeling out process, but because Tank throws so little shots early, I think he could do a little more, and his output could be a little higher to steal those early rounds. We'll see if that's the case. When we think about Gervonta Davis, this guy's the #1 ranked fighter in the world at 135 pounds. You know he's a superstar. You know he's talented. If anybody's going to sit here and argue those two facts, then you could call those guys haters. What I'm going to say is just the level of competition within a weight class and within a division. I recently did a post about the current champions all the way up to heavyweight down to 118 pounds, and I talked about who they're fighting and the Las Vegas odds. Nakatani's fighting Queller, plus 500. Even Shakur Stevenson at 35 is fighting a young upstart in Schofield, and Schofield's only a plus 700. Las Vegas has this fight going into it. Roach is a plus 1,000. So with Gervonta Davis, my beef with him is I just want to see him fight a guy closer to a 50-50 fight. Don't kill the messenger. I don't make the odds. Vegas does. This is not a 50-50 fight. Like I said, the odds are wild because Roach is coming up from 30. When we look at Tank Davis, Tank is #1 in the world at 35. Roach is number 16 at 130. Let that one sink in. To continue, let's take a closer look at Tank. Guys, Tank is undefeated. We know that he's 30-0 with 28 knockouts. He carries into the ring a 93% career knockout to win ratio. He's currently 1 in the world at 35. The 30-year-old American is a southpaw, and his adoring fans know him as Tank. He stands at 5'5.5" with a 67-inch reach. We last saw him fight Frank Martin, 18-0, knockout in the 8th. Garcia, 23-0, knockout in the 7th. Hector Garcia, 16-0, knockout in the 9th. Rolly Romero, 14-0, knockout in the 6th. Pitbull, 22-1, UD in the 12th. Guys, Tank Davis and Roach have a common opponent, Hector Garcia. Tank starched him, knocked him out. Roach took him to a split decision and got a victory after he was knocked out by Tank a few years after that. Gervonta Davis is super exciting. One of my favorite things about his style is his patience. One of my favorite things about his style is his ring IQ. He's able to compute the data, and then when he turns it on, it's exciting. It's like literally watching an apex predator go after his prey. It's exciting to watch him give his opponents a false sense of security, and then he's looking, and then when he sees his opponent make a mistake, he'll sometimes wink at you. He did that to Frank Martin a round or two before he knocked Frank out. And he did this to Rolly Romero right before he knocks Rolly out. That in itself is exciting. I'll always tune into a Tank Davis fight. So if you guys call me a hater just because I challenge the way his career is managed, call me whatever you want. I feel as a fan of the sport and as a fan of any fighter, we must show due diligence to the sport and a fighter and hold each accountable. And I just want to see Tank in a 50-50 fight. Have you guys ever seen him? What's the closest fight he's ever had to where it was a coin toss? I don't know. I look back in the odds And the one I could find was 3 fights ago. Ryan Garcia going into that fight was a plus 300, but other than that, I couldn't find another matchup where it was that close. And when you think about a plus 300, that's not really that close. That's $100 gives you 300. Tank Davis's game plan is going to be business as usual. He's going to wait. He's going to see what Lamont gives him. He's going to see how Lamont moves. He's going to see what Lamont reacts to. Don't expect Roach to be as twitchy as Frank Martin was. Frank Martin's inexperience showed up not in his grit, not in his determination, not in his courage, but in his inability to not bite on Tank's feints. And that's what got him caught. Don't expect that from Roach. Roach has had a lot of pro rounds. He has an extensive amateur career with Frank Martin didn't have. So Roach has seen all these looks. There's nothing that Roach is going to see from Tank that he's going to be surprised with. It's going to come down to his durability and his physical resilience. Will Lamont Roach be able to withstand the power and the pressure from Tank Davis? That is the narrative of this fight. When we look at both fighters side by side, Tank's going to be the shorter guy. He's going to have more power. He's a little bit older. He's the bigger fighter in terms of weight class. He should weigh a little bit bigger come fight night. His belt will be on the line, so that's something to tune in for as well. It's always intriguing when you have a huge underdog who gets the opportunity of a lifetime to change his life, and that's Lamont Roach. We know Tank's a southpaw. We know Lamont's an orthodox. Lamont's going to want to circle away from Tank's power side, and Tank's going to do what he does best, cut the ring off and force his opponent to walk into that power. But I don't see Lamont falling for the same feints. I mentioned it earlier, to where I don't think it'll be as easy for Tank to catch Roach. Now, this isn't my prediction, but I do think that this fight might go to decision. I think that Roach has enough skills in his tool bag to figure out early whether he's going to have to make the decision to get knocked out or not. I think he is skilled enough to avoid the knockout for 12 rounds, but time will tell. I already talked about Vegas's odds. Huge underdog, plus 1,000, meaning if you put 100 on Lamont and he wins, you get 1,000 back. I want to ask you guys right now, this is your time to predict who wins this fight. How's it go down? Does Tank win by knockout or decision? Are you going with the dog? Are you rolling with Roach? Leave all that in the comment section below.